Hi, Pastor Kevin here for your Wednesday edition of Advent for Everyone as we look at the coming of the Son of Man. I am coming to you live from my 2016 Toyota Sienna. Anyway, we never know when the internet is going to be down at church, similar to the way we don't know when the Son of Man will come. I wish I could hear you laughing right now. Anyway, this passage is continuing in these Matthew 24 passages. These texts that we're starting with, are some of the hardest in the book of Matthew, and I think that's why Wright starts with them, and also because they follow in line with that warning text of the first Sunday of Advent. So in this passage, what N.T. Wright wants us to see is that the coming of the Son of Man is something that Jesus was predicting and talking about to his disciples right before his resurrection and especially his ascension. In fact, when he uses verse 30, when Jesus says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the coming of the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." N.T. Wright wants us to understand that it was actually Jesus' ascension into heaven after his resurrection that is supposed to be seen as the coming of the Son of Man into his rule and reign. This is a different way of understanding this than we usually think of understanding this coming of the Son of Man. He also talks then about the fact that Jesus will be known by this destruction of the temple that he has predicted, and that when that happens in the year 70 AD, that indeed is proof that Jesus is who he said he was. And the third way in which this victory of the Messiah will be known, this victory of the Son of Man, is that the news will spread throughout the world. N.T. Wright says in the middle of page 18 that it's not just the going and telling of this news that's going to happen through the Apostle Paul and others, but he says the deeper dimension of these happenings is that the one true God is announcing to his whole creation that Jesus is his appointed Lord of the world. In other words, the entire world has changed. I was talking to my Bible study about this morning when we were reflecting on these passages. And we were thinking about the way in which, for a Jewish person in the time of Matthew, their entire paradigm is having to shift. They have understood God to essentially be living inside the temple in this small box in the Holy of Holies. And now they're supposed to understand that God actually dwells inside this human Jesus Christ who has been walking and living among them, and that this same Jesus resurrects from the dead. That is a paradigm shift for them. It's a different way of understanding who God is. So I pray that this Advent, there might be some times of paradigm shift for you as the scriptures are open to you and as you begin to understand who God is in a deeper and more meaningful way. Peace be with you.